Hi everyone, welcome to Live Interactive English. I'm Nina.
Hello everybody, I'm Shane, and we're doing part 2 of how a flightless bird spread around the world, and we're talking about chickens. So I've got a question for you.
Go.
For everybody,
All
which
right.
came first, the chicken or the egg?
The oldest question in the book.
Right?
What do you think?
I don't know. I mean, that's the problem. You would think that obviously a chicken needs to come from an egg, right?
Yeah,
you can't
but
just have a chicken there.
Exactly, but then if you say the egg came first, you'd have to say the egg came from a chicken.
Right, so the egg had to come from a chicken, and then you just keep going around in circles and circles and circles.
I think there's not really a point to this question, right?
Yeah.
But you know what this reminds me of? When I was a kid, actually, I thought that the eggs that you see at, say, a supermarket would actually hatch into a little chick.
So like if you left it sitting there, it's like too long, like you didn't cook it, then one day it was just gonna hatch.
No, I thought that maybe it needed warmth. You needed to put it under a blanket. I even put a warm light over it.
Really?
Yes,
so you
and
really did that? So
yeah,
you slept with it?
I didn't sleep with it, but I kept it warm and I would speak to it. I'm like, oh, I'm so excited. I was a kid, okay?
That's so cute.
And then eventually I was trying to move the egg to a different place and I accidentally dropped it.
Oh no.
Yes, and I realized
I killed it.
it looked like a regular egg, so I was a bit confused. I was like,
you thought it should be growing at least a little bit, right?
Yeah, I was thinking did I do something wrong? Is there a step missing? But yeah, I was young.
That's adorable.
Yeah.
Okay, let's get into part 2.
All right.
Chickens didn't reach North America until much later. Some had arrived from South America before the 10th century, but many more were brought by Europeans starting in the 16th century. Even then, with so many wild birds in North America, chickens were valued more for their eggs than for their meat. In the US, chicken was a rich person's food leading up to the 20th century. But by the time of the Great Depression, many poor families had begun breeding chickens. Soon, antibiotics and vitamin-enriched feed allowed people to raise chickens safely indoors.
Okay, so how a flightless bird spread around the world, part 2. So for a quick recap, what did we learn in part 1?
So in the beginning, chickens were first started getting fed in Thailand. Then people started transporting them to Northern Africa and then Europe, right?
Okay.
And we also learned that they were used initially as pets or even as, they were considered to be exotic creatures, so they weren't eaten.
Even divine, right?
Yes. So eventually, people started eating them all across Europe as well. But we never learned when they got to North America.
But let's find out.
Yes.
So chickens didn't reach North America until much later.
Okay.
Some had arrived from South America before the 10th century, but many more were brought by Europeans starting in the 16th century. Okay, so we got a few from South America, in the United States and Canada. Yeah. But it wasn't really until the 16th century that Europeans brought them over.
Yeah, Europeans, thank you again. Continuing. Even then, with so many wild birds in North America, chickens were valued more for their eggs than for their meat.
Okay.
Oh, interesting.
Well, I do, as a vegetarian, I eat eggs.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of vegetarians eat eggs, so maybe more eggs get eaten than the meat? I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I mean, but everyone has eggs, almost everybody, unless you're vegan.
Maybe they bred them later to become even more tasty, and so at first they just thought, I know why. I think in North America they were still not very common, even though they had wild birds, so they didn't eat them at first.
Maybe. Okay.
So what do we mean by wild?
Wild. So wild is an adjective. It's usually something that's uncontrolled or still in its natural state. Okay. So it could be a wild animal.
How about a wild party?
A wild party,
uncontrolled,
exactly,
right?
a crazy party, or even wild berries, for example, in the forest.
Yeah.
These are still in their natural state, right?
So if we're talking about animals, though, you can say a domesticated animal
There
would
you
be
go.
an animal that you have like around the house, right?
Yes.
It's not in the wild, like out in
Exactly.
nature. Okay.
So an example sentence would be, the signs around the park tell visitors to avoid feeding the wild animals. Oh, you know, you have a lot of those signs regarding monkeys when you're close to like the forests, because the
Yeah.
monkeys might steal your things, right? So they
Right.
say don't feed the
Don't
monkeys.
feed them because then they'll just want to come closer and closer. I once had like a monkey jump on my shoulder.
Yeah.
And then like I thought that was really cute, but then it peed all over me.
Oh my
And
god.
I was out on vacation and I had to wear like a pee shirt for the rest of the day.
Sounds like fun.
It was horrible. Continuing, in the US, chicken was a rich person's food leading up to the 20th century.
So only the rich had chicken. It was more
Yeah.
expensive, maybe.
Probably because it was still more rare. They weren't
Exactly.
breeding as many, so it was kind of like, a luxurious food.
Ooh, okay.
But by the time of the Great Depression, many poor families had begun breeding chickens.
Okay, so they're like, let's breed our own.
Yeah.
Right?
They must be pretty
Okay.
easy to breed, right? Because it seems like you can kind of breed them everywhere and they don't take up a lot of space.
Yeah.
So, okay, so poor people started eating them more. Because I think of chicken more now as not really like a rich person's meal. It's like
Yeah.
Kobe beef or something, or
Yeah.
a steak.
Yeah, it's not. It's very common.
And it's cheap, right?
Exactly. So soon, antibiotic and vitamin-enriched feed allowed people to raise chickens safely indoors.
Okay, so we have feed usually means like a verb to feed somebody, right? But you
Yes.
can refer to the thing that you feed animals as feed,
A noun,
right?
right?
As a noun.
Yes.
Okay, so they were vitamin enriched. So a vitamin just means a natural or human-made substance that's needed for the health and normal working of the body.
Yes.
So you need vitamins like vitamin C, vitamin B, vitamin A, vitamin D, like all these, right, to just be healthy. And all
Yeah.
animals do need vitamins to
Yeah.
survive and be healthy.
Yeah.
For example, we could say the doctor gave me a blood test to check my vitamin levels.
Okay. You can also say vitamins.
Yes, I know you would say vitamins.
Yes.
Right?
And the word indoors is an adverb. It means anything related to inside a building. For example, right now we are indoors. Yes.
That's true.
Yeah, so preferably we would want to stay indoors if it is raining.
Raining or too hot or whatever. Yeah, I think just basically to avoid the weather outside, you want to stay indoors.
Yes. So an example sentence would be, because of the rain, the event was moved indoors.
Okay, but sometimes when you're indoors too long, you feel like you need to just get out and get some fresh air. So why don't we take a break, go outside, enjoy the sunshine or the rain or whatever, and just get some fresh air.
Yeah, go outdoors.
Okay.
See you after the break.
Hello， 大家好，我是 Hanny。鸡一开始不是被用来当做食物，而是被视为外来宠物，甚至是神圣的生物。Nina 老师帮我们在做前情提要的时候，她用到 initially 这个字 ，initially 这个副词可以表达最初、开始。好，那这边也补充一下 recap 这个字 recap 当名词可以表达重述要点、前情提要、对剧情的概述这样。好，那么课文写到说，鸡主要是在这个16世纪由欧洲人带到北美洲的。那由于北美洲有非常多的野生鸟类，鸡受到重视比较是因为鸡蛋，而不是因为鸡肉。那在20世纪之前呢，鸡肉在美国是富人是喝雅郎的食物哦。但是到了这个经济大萧条的时候，许多穷人家就已经开始养鸡了。那不久后呢，这个抗生素啊，还有富含维他命的饲料，也让人们可以安全的在室内养鸡。来看单字 wild， 它可以形容是野生的或是荒芜的。那老师在解释单字时，他用到 uncontrolled 可以描述不受管制的或是不受抑制的。 它也用到这个 domesticate，D-O-M-E-S-T-I-C-A-T-E 这个动词呢，它有驯养、驯化的意思。像我们说驯化动物，那它的过去分词是 domesticated， 就可以用来描述是被驯养的、豢养的。好，下一个单字 vitamin， 它是指维生素、维他命。那有时候你也会听到它念作 vitamin， 这比较是英式英语的用法。好，文中它用到复合形容词 vitamin enriched， 它是描述添加维生素的。那么再看到 indoors， 它是副词，是在室内、在屋里。它的相反词是 outdoors， 表示在户外、在野外。这边一个重点，我们进入文法时间。好，我们来看这个重点是 more A than B， 表示比较像是 A 而非 B， 与其说是 B， 不如说是 A。那这个用法当中的 A、B 词性要相同。我们的比较对象 A、B 如果是单数可数名词的话，常常会写作 more of A than B。举例来说 ，The movie is more of a comedy than a thriller。那部电影与其说是惊悚片，不如说是喜剧片。接华课文中。
After World War II, the global population grew, and so did the public's taste for chicken meat. Today, there are over 25.9 billion chickens, making them the most numerous bird on Earth. Over the last century, chickens have changed a lot due to selective breeding. In 1957, an adult chicken weighed less than 1 kilogram on average. These days, it weighs over 4 kilograms, which is an almost 400% increase. The same goes for egg production. The number of eggs produced in a year has nearly tripled. For a flightless bird, chickens sure have come a long way.
Welcome back. Did you get some fresh air?
Yes, I did.
Did you go outdoors? Now we're back indoors. You're feeling better?
Very good.
Me too. Okay, so before the break, we learned that in North America, we finally got chickens, a lot of chickens, more like in the 16th century.
Yes.
And because of the Great Depression, a lot of poor people started breeding chickens.
Yeah.
And then with antibiotics and vitamins and stuff like that, it became easier to have them indoors and, basically breed them there, and so it really started to spread.
Yeah, because before it used to be just the rich people's food, right?
Right.
All right, so continuing with the story, after World War II, the global population grew, and so did the public's taste for chicken meat.
Okay, so it kind of makes sense because people really like chicken, so the more people that there are, the more demand there's going to be for chicken.
Exactly,
right?
yes.
Okay. So population is a noun. It means the people who live in an area considered as a group.
Yes.
So for example, you can say the population of Taipei is over 2.6 million.
Which is actually a lot for the size of Taipei.
Yeah, so Taipei's pretty small, so yeah, it's quite densely populated.
Exactly.
Continuing, today there are over 25.9 billion chickens. Wow. Making them the most numerous bird on Earth.
That's crazy, because there are about
8 billion people
on Earth.
So there's like 3 chickens for every person.
Unless you're vegetarian.
Well, yes, I don't need any chicken, so I can give my 3 to you, so you get 6.
Yes. Okay. Yes.
So if we say something's the most numerous, like the most numerous bird just means that the number of them is the most.
Yes.
Right? So you could also say numerous to just mean I have numerous hobbies.
Yeah, so
Could
many,
be,
right?
Could be many as well.
Yes. Continuing, over the last century, chickens have changed a lot due to selective breeding.
Okay.
Ooh, selective breeding.
So like when you're breeding, right, it's like basically making babies from the adult animals, right? So if you're selectively breeding, you're kind of choosing which characteristics that you want to pass to the next generation.
Maybe they chose the extra chubby ones, the ones with more meat.
That would make the most sense, or the ones that didn't try to fly away.
That's true.
Right?
Maybe
So the ones that had like really good wings and they were strong, like, well, we don't want those. Those are going to get away and escape. So how about these guys that are just too fat and they can't really fly? We'll breed them.
That makes sense.
Okay.
Continuing, in 1957, an adult chicken weighed less than 1 kilogram on on average.
That's pretty small. These days, it weighs over 4 kilograms, okay, which is an almost 400% increase.
Wow.
Wow, so they used to just kind of probably like this big,
Yeah.
right? And now they're pretty big.
They're fat.
Because you need more meat, right? So you're going to selectively breed the bigger ones, and the ones that are too small, you're just going to push them off to the side and don't breed them, right?
Okay.
Continuing, the same goes for egg production.
So production is a noun. It's the process of making or growing goods to be sold.
Okay.
But the verb is produce, which is like make.
Right,
Correct.
okay. So for example, you could say in North America, steel production is expected to rise next year.
Okay.
And it looks like the production of chicken is going to just continue to rise
Grow.
and grow and grow and grow because the human population on Earth is going to just keep increasing and increasing.
Yes.
Continuing, the number of eggs produced in a year has nearly tripled. For a flightless bird, chickens sure have come a long way.
Yes, they
I see the
have.
joke there. They've come a long way, even though they
Yeah.
can't fly. Okay, so we have a what do you think question.
Yes.
So after reading the article, what was the most surprising thing you learned about chickens?
I think for me, I didn't realize that chickens initially weren't used as food, you know?
Right.
Yeah,
I
so
was surprised to learn that too. Like,
Yeah.
you just think of chickens as something you eat.
exactly.
But you can't imagine someone's like, ooh, look at my exotic pet chicken.
Yeah, that's really weird, right? And the fact that they were considered a divine, right?
Yeah.
A divine creature. So yeah, you don't really imagine chickens being that. Like it's not like they're a peacock and have really pretty feathers, but I guess
It's because they're so common now.
yeah.
Right?
So
It's kind of like diamonds. Why are they so, precious? It's because they're rare.
that's very true.
Okay, but I still think that chickens are precious. So if you want to become a vegetarian like me, go for it. And why don't we end there?
Sure.
Hope you learned a lot about chickens. I know we did.
Yes, we did. We'll see you next time.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
在第二次世界大战后，全球人口增加，那么大众对鸡肉的喜爱也增加了。如今有超过259亿只的鸡耶，这使它们成为地球上数量最多的鸟类了。那在上个世纪呢，由于这个选择育种，鸡产生了很大变化，像鸡的平均重量增加了，鸡蛋的产量也增加了。我们补充一下，这个段落有用到 average 来当名词，表示平均值。我们用 on average 就可以表达平均来说怎么样怎么样。好，那单字 population 它是指人口、全体人民，也可以去表达说可能某地区某一种动物它的总数。那讲到台北人口时 ，Shane 老师用到 densely populated 来描述人口密集的，其中这个 densely D-E-N-S-E-L-Y 它是当副词来表达稠密的、密集的。那么 populated 它是拼作这个 P-O-P-U-L-A-T-E-D populated 是描述居住的。好，下一个单字 production 是名词，是指产量、生产、制造。那课文最后就写到说，对一种这种不会飞的鸟类来说，鸡确实走了很长的一段路，这是要呼应它不会飞吧？好，这边两个重点，我们进入文法时间。好，我们来看第一个重点是 so 加上助动词或 be 动词加主词，是表达什么什么也是。这个用法是用来附和前面的肯定句。那如果你前面是否定句的话，这时候只要把 so 改成 neither 就可以表达什么什么也不是。好，那么 so 跟 neither 都是副词，跟前面的句子呢要用连接词或是分号隔开来。那你也可以把前面先打上句号，然后再另外把这个 so 或是 neither 所开头的句子写成另一句咯。举例来说 ，Tina had bread and coffee for breakfast, and so did I. Tina 早餐吃面包配咖啡，我也是。那我们看到后半句这个逗号 and so did I， 你也可以把它写作分号 so did I， 或者是呢把前面打上句点，然后 so 的 s 大写 so did I。好，那我们再来看个例句。 Sharon isn't going to the party, and neither are we. Sharon 不会去参加派对，我们也不会。再来看到 come a long way 这个片语呢，它字面意思是走了一大段路，这是用来指说某人事物它经历了大幅进展，进步很多，常常用完成式来表达。比如 Tom's guitar skills have come a long way since last year. Tom 的吉他演奏技巧从去年以来已经进步很多了。讲到这个片语，我就很想唱一下《玩命关头》第7集那个主题曲，大家知道吗 ？We've come a long way from where we began. Oh, I'll tell you all about it when I see you again. 还好没有出糗。好，以上是今天的讲解，同学别走开，马上回来喽。
Chickens didn't reach North America until much later. Some had arrived from South America before the 10th century, but many more were brought by Europeans starting in the 16th century. Even then, with so many wild birds in North America, chickens were valued more for their eggs than for their meat. In the US, chicken was a rich person's food leading up to the 20th century. But by the time of the Great Depression, many poor families had begun breeding chickens. Soon, antibiotics and vitamin-enriched feed allowed people to raise chickens safely indoors. After World War II, the global population grew, and so did the public's taste for chicken meat. Today, there are over 25.9 billion chickens, making them the most numerous bird on Earth. Over the last century, chickens have changed a lot due to selective breeding. In 1957, an adult chicken weighed less than 1 kilogram on average. These days it weighs over 4 kilograms, which is an almost 400% increase. The same goes for egg production. The number of eggs produced in a year has nearly tripled. For a flightless bird, chickens sure have come a long way.
Hi, I'm Toi.
I'm Josh.
And today we're playing Word Drop. So we each have 3 cards with words or phrases on them, and we've never seen them before, and we have to work them casually into our conversation. Are you ready, Josh?
I'm ready.
Okay, I'm going to start. So my husband and I, we went to the Brazilian Amazon this past winter, and we had an amazing time. We got to stay on a floating lodge that actually floated on the water, and because the water levels rise and fall about 20 meters in between the rainy and dry season, the lodge has to go up naturally with the water levels. And it was such an amazing experience. We got to see so many different types of creatures in their natural habitats, such as the kingfishers, parrots, black caimans were so beautiful. But these animals, it was just so crazy to think like they live like this, just in the wild with so much rain. And all of these animals, they were wild animals. And we had guides that took us around to show us where they lived.
That must have been a really eye-opening adventure. I think the thing about rainforests that I really like is just the vast variety of different birds. My dad actually, he has a lot of birds. We have over probably 20 parrots back home, all different shapes, all different sizes. And so it's so loud in the morning when they wake up. They're just screaming, so you don't need an alarm clock. And so, because they're all different tropical birds, you have to feed them tropical fruit, such as, oranges, bananas, things like that, which are a good source of vitamins. I would say vitamin C is my favorite vitamin.
Your favorite vitamin? Well, that's quite interesting. So many different birds. I have never been around that many birds at one time. But I wonder, does your dad keep the birds outdoors or keep the birds inside? It's really hard, 20 birds. But having all those birds indoors must be hard, in my opinion.
Yeah, it definitely would be hard if they were indoors. Thankfully, they are outdoors. but it's kind of a bit tricky because they're outdoors, but they're in cages outdoors. So while they're outdoors to us, they're still inside to them. And we keep them like that to control their population.
Control their population. Well, with controlling their population, that means that they don't reproduce as often. And so you don't want them to, or you don't want to have them in production and have more birds, right?
That's right. We started with 2, now we've got 20. So I guess you could say we've come a long way in terms of our birds.
That's crazy. You started with 2 birds and now there's 20.
Yeah.
I can't believe that.
See you next time!